Hello and welcome to Sean White's Solar and Energy Storage Podcast. This is a very special podcast, and it is called Why Republicans Love Solar and Storage. That's right, Republicans love solar and storage. So that's right, God bless America. Why do we want to have solar, Republicans? One reason is it gives us independence. That's right, independence from the communist grid. Think of that. A grid is a community, and community, that's the root word for communist. Sharing things. We want to make our own electricity. We don't want to share our electricity with Democrats, right? That's Gavin Newsom's people. Republicans want to have their own electricity, and you can't do that too easy. You can't put a coal plant or a nuclear power plant in your backyard yet. So in the meantime, you get some solar energy. And solar energy is the least communist type of electricity. It's more conservative. It's not liberal. It's not like all that sharing stuff. It's coming down right to you, right direct from the sun, right from God. God has given you that solar electricity so you can just use it and be independent from the grid. I've heard some Republicans even say that utilities are the deep state. You know, utilities working with politicians, controlling things for the masses, the masses like Marx and Engels. Communism, that's what it is. And another thing too, why Republicans like solar is because, RFK Jr., he's into all that health stuff. In fact, he was an environmental lawyer. And EMFs, right? Those high voltage wires, we don't need high voltage wires when we're making our electricity where we're using it. That's called DG for distributed generation. And another thing too is there's better market competition when you're making your own electricity, especially if you're just disconnected from the grid, defected from the grid defection. And so you can go out and you can buy your equipment from whoever you want, and you get your sunshine from up high. And if you wanted to, you could buy your equipment from different people. You've got market competition, not just like utility lines coming from one place, and you should be able to make your own electricity. That's like property rights. And also, nobody's figured out how to tax the sun unless, of course, you are connected to that communist communal grid. And another thing about making your own electricity is national security. You're not out there fighting wars and giving away really nice, fancy airplanes to countries that don't have capitalism. Really think about that. Some of those countries that are doing the oil, they don't have free markets, things like that. They just have dictators. So solar, that's given us individual liberties. God bless America. And not to mention, solar and wind also are the least expensive forms of electricity, so Republicans like lower electric bills. They like a good, predictable return on investment, ROI. Another thing about solar too, and storage, is it creates a lot more jobs. Gives you job creation, way more jobs than with fossil fuel. And do you like inflation? I don't. Solar gives you a hedge against rising utility rates. So you pay for your solar and you have a fixed price of electricity for as long as that solar lasts, instead of having the prices go up and up and up, which they always do. You make your own electricity. You don't have to worry about that. And then innovation is driven by entrepreneurs, solar entrepreneurs, not government bureaucrats. And Republicans hate government bureaucrats, right? And then another thing too is, even if you have schools, public schools, if we don't figure out how to get rid of those things, because we have to pay taxes for them, but if they have solar on their roofs, then we don't have the high municipal taxes that are paying for the rising electric rates. So lower taxes with solar. Woo! And by the way, people, don't get offended if I'm doing some satire here, all right? Another thing too, solar, good for businesses because it helps small businesses reduce operating costs and improve margins. So it's good for money. Republicans love money. Another thing it can do is it gives you better grid efficiency, because with distributed generation, DG, you're making the electricity where you're using it. So the more solar you have, the less power you have to put on these expensive transmission and distribution lines and have to pay for upgrades and all that kind of stuff. And then Republicans love solar because once installed, the fuel, which is sunlight, we got some hydrogen turned into helium up there, a little bit of fusion, 93 million miles away, nice safe distance for that nuclear, and it's free. It's just coming at you. That's right, the liberals haven't figured out how to tax you for the sunlight yet, especially when you're off grid. Take those bolt cutters and just disconnect from the grid, right? And if you're using the electricity where you're making it, less grid connection. If you are connected to the grid, you avoid fuel costs, fuel taxes, all that kind of stuff. You avoid sending your money to other places out of state, out of your local area, even as far away as Saudi Arabia. So we don't need all that domestic oil, especially when we're driving electric vehicles. And of course, Republicans love electric vehicles. Nothing like fueling up at home, not having to depend on the military gas station complex. We interrupt you for a very important announcement. Sean White's Solar and Energy Storage Podcast has been brought to you by Sean White's Solar and Energy Storage Podcast. That's right, Sean White is sponsoring his own podcast, and he wants to remind you to go check out some of his classes. You can go to SolarSEAN, that's SolarSEAN.com, and then click on the links to check out his classes. You can check out his heat spring classes, and you can also hire him to teach classes for you, like at your company, something like that. Now back to the show. So another thing too is when you're making your own electricity, it's harder for terrorists or hackers to take down the grid. Then you can have disasters, floods and storms and all that stuff, which of course is not caused by climate change, right, Republicans? But when you do have those things, you can have self-reliance. Then another thing that's really important to Republicans is having energy dominance, being superior to China and other countries. So we want to be number one, right? America number one, America number one. And we can't let China beat us at solar. Then it provides security for families during grid failures, like the hurricanes in Puerto Rico and like the Texas deep freeze. Then we could also save our oil and gas and have greater reserves for tactical military needs. So we could assert our Republican dominance over other countries. And another thing too is you can't embargo the sun, not by like OPEC. Like OPEC can set prices. It's a cartel. It's an official cartel, and we don't want to have to be beholden to OPEC. And if we think about it, I think they might have left something out of the Constitution, that we should have energy freedom. The right to generate our own power is a fundamental property right. Maybe it is in the Constitution there too, in the commandments. And off-grid living is the ultimate libertarian dream. Not being connected to the utility, self-sufficiency, anti-monopoly, self-reliance, protection from bureaucracy, and also we don't have eminent domain. So with rooftop solar, they don't have to seize private property to put in pipelines and roads and things like that. You're just putting it right on your roof. It's over your head. And then also when you're making your own electricity, you're not in some database with people that can violate your rights and find out what your electrical usage habits are. They could tell when you're home and what you do. That should be private. And we should be able to voluntarily associate with each other. So if you have a neighbor that's a Republican, you could have a Republican-only solar cooperative and share the electrons with each other. We have individualism, my roof, my power, my rules. We can avoid rationing. Let's say something comes, rolling blackouts. That's rationing. That's like a bread line, electrical bread lines. We can avoid that if we're relying upon ourselves, self-reliance. And some other good ranchers are mostly Republicans. Rural people are in the red when you see those maps of where people's political philosophies lie. And electric fencing. Ranchers need to manage livestock with electric fencing and water pumping, and they've been using solar for that for a long time. Another thing, though, is a lot of Republicans like to hunt. And you have a hunting cabin, and you're going to have a lot better chance of having venison for dinner if you don't have a noisy generator at your cabin so you can sneak up on your meal. Then there's preppers. Of course, preppers have to have solar. You can't have an endless supply of oil at your prepper cabin. You might have some, but you have to have solar because solar, that's an endless supply of electricity. Other things too is you can leave a legacy, a self-sufficient home for your children. So we can't let China lead the future of energy with solar. We have to take it back. We're Americans. We demand freedom. Yeehaw! So that's right, those are some of the reasons, and there are many more, why Republicans love solar. And you know what? You might be surprised how many Republicans are in the solar industry. So we don't want to alienate people. We want to welcome them in to our big tent, the solar tent, the storage tent. And I don't think we need to do a podcast on why Democrats love solar, because what good is preaching to the choir? All right, y'all. Thanks for listening to Sean White's Solar and Energy Storage Podcast. To find out more, go to SolarSEAN.com. Get yourself NABCEP certified so you can help people gain energy independence. Make our country stronger. God bless America. Down, 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 down.